just see whether the three speakers of this session are available or not. Christian Johnson? Not yet. Deluc from France? Yeah. Erika, yeah. So we have two speakers. We'll just wait for, if you agree, we'll wait for 5 minutes more so that at least some people are there to hear you. Work for a center called Mahalanobis National Crop Forecast Center, which is basically working for, it's under Ministry of Agriculture and working for various remote sensing applications in agriculture, including crop production forecast, which we regularly, and we had a presentation, many of you may have heard yesterday, there was a presentation. It's a great thing that we have two remote sensing sessions in the Agriculture Statistics Conference that shows how remote sensing is extremely useful and becoming more and more useful in agriculture statistics. We have also heard a lot of plenary lectures which where they have specifically mentioned the use of satellite remote sensing data for crop estimations. Like you know, this is the second session of remote sensing. We had yesterday one session, and today we have another session. And like yesterday, we have one presentation from USA, one presentation from Europe, France, and one presentation from Asia, Indonesia. So it's really covering the major part of the world. As of now, Christian Johnson is not there. I'll ask Ms. Gilluk to give her presentation on satellite-derived services for a sustainable and productive agriculture. You can introduce yourself before making a presentation. You have 20 minutes to make a presentation. 20 minutes is enough?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Okay. Hello everybody. So I'm Marie-Christine Deluc. I'm working in Airbus. We are located in France. Airbus is not only aircraft. I'm working in the division Defense and Space of Airbus, and so dealing with satellite and remote sensing. Space System is selling satellites, but I'm belonging to the intelligence part of it, and I'm an agronomist working with agriculture and remote sensing for quite a while. What we are trying to do in Airbus, and we are some 60 people working in agriculture, is to use satellite information, which is our skills really, for agriculture topics. So either private agriculture or institutional agriculture. So I will try to present today how to use this information, what kind of services we can have for serving agriculture, and especially sustainable and sustainable agriculture. Okay, as you know, agriculture needs data. The farmers are receiving many pressure. We ask them to increase the production. The population is increasing, and the arable land is often limited with forestry, with urbanization. Commodity prices are evolving a lot. And so changing a lot, and so at the same time we ask farmers to respect the environment, and so the management of the resource, I mean the land, the water, the fertilizers, has to be really taken into account in agricultural policies. So this is why agriculture needs data. But agriculture is already using massive amount of satellite imagery. As you know, agriculture is scattered. Agricultural fields are scattered on the territory, which makes it complex to analyze. But satellite imagery offers a good reach, on the old territory. On another side, the plant is growing quite fast, but I would say slow enough to be monitored by satellite information. We have today a good revisit that allows to have a good crop monitoring, and I will show a case of this. Third, the farmer's margin is really at stake because you need to consider this in terms of having a sustainable agriculture policy. And remote sensing, as we say, is really cost-effective now, has proven to be quite really cost-effective for these solutions. I would add that there is a kind of alignment of planets, if I can say, today, because we have more and more satellites. The resource of satellite is really important today, which makes that it guarantees the operationality of the system. You will not lack of satellite data in the future because there are really a lot of them. And at the same time, so we have more satellite resource, and at the same time, we have an easier access thanks to the cloud, thanks to the digital aspect of it. And so this is a kind of convergence which is good for the application of remote sensing to agriculture. The fact is that we have plenty of resource, but the question, the main challenge persists, how to transform this data into meaningful information. That's a question that we have still today. And I will try to bring a part of the answer on this point. How to transform to information which is relevant for you in your decision process. So, as I was saying, space monitoring is already embedded in many portals, agricultural portals, both private and public today, for doing crop monitoring and estimating production. Why? It's because it's bringing timeliness, because we have a direct access to satellite and quite automatic process today of this satellite data. This brings timeliness. Second, remote sensing brings accuracy. Why? Because each pixel is bringing an information within each field. Third, it brings geospatial vision, meaning you can have a crop mapping quite directly today. And of course, it brings independence and comparability. Comparability is really important in terms of understanding the factors of production, because you can it allows to compare to normal years. So that's the four topics where remote sensing is really of interest. Of course, sorry about that, there are plenty of satellites, as I was saying. I would say the right eye for the right need. According to the need, we can provide access to given satellites. In Airbus, we have some satellites, which are Airbus satellites, like you have heard maybe about Spot. Spot 6.7 is 1.5 meter resolution, or Pléiade, 50 centimeter resolution. The next generation of Pléiade will come in next year with a 30 centimeter resolution. So we have high resolution, but we have also with partner satellites some medium resolution. We are using a lot Sentinel data, Landsat data as well in our APIs that I will show later on. And of course, we can integrate as well some UAVs with some customers. It might be important to integrate this kind of sourcing as well. But having raw satellite imagery is like having a closed can for someone hungry. Something is really missing. And today, what we are using commonly is NDVIs. We spoke about that yesterday in the last session. NDVI, we have all used the NDVI, which is great, but it has some limits. NDVI is sensitive to the light conditions and to the viewing angles and to the sensors themselves. So if you want to use several sensors to build a crop profile, it's really difficult because NDVI is sensitive to these factors and need to be calibrated, to be comparable. Second limitation of NDVI is that it is saturating when the canopy closes the soil. And this is why we have developed other parameters which are biophysic metrics of the plant. They are more absolute quantification of the plant status, and we do not need any calibration. An example here for Europe, if Europe is 10 million square kilometer, if you want to cover Europe you need more or less half months, and you need several sources, several satellite sourcing. And so it's very important to be comparable. If you use NDVI on the left-hand side, you see that it's really a very changing radiometry because of these viewing conditions from different sensors. With biophysical parameters, on the right you have the green cover fraction, which is one of the biophysical parameters that we retrieve from satellite data. You have a coherent information. This is really big data because you can compare all this information. The same green shade in the northern Europe and in the southern Europe means the same, exactly the same. So this is a way to be able to have absolute quantification and comparability between data. This is another example on cornfields in the US. Here you can see profiles of corn crop in different fields. And these profiles are made of all incoming imagery. You have Landsat, you have Sentinel, you have different spot satellites, and all this information is made coherent thanks to the biophysical parameters. Here you have the leaf area index. The green cover fraction is a kind of 2 division of the green cover of your field. The LAI is a kind of 3D vision of the green cover. It takes into account the profile of the crop, and LAI, leaf area index, is a good proxy of biomass and then of production. And so the beauty of this system is that you can compare fields between themselves. For example, here you can see that field number 4 is the crop is less developed than field number 2, for example. So this is what is of interest in this case. Maybe you are asking yourself, well, I'm doing statistics and she's speaking about fields, but all this information can be retrieved automatically, field by field. For the big amount of fields, you can have this information over millions of fields. It's the beauty of the cloud system. Okay, so what we are using is all these biophysical parameters. We use them to derive agronomic information. I was speaking about LAI, to derive biomass quantity, and then to achieve a farming recommendation like yield potential, or if we use a chlorophyll biophysical parameter, then we can derive agronomic information on the nitrogen status, and this is how in precision agriculture, we derive recommendation on nitrogen inputs, for example. Just to say that these biophysical parameters are very good to derive information on the crop, on the status of the crop. So these biophysical metrics are really our can opener today. We use them in several sectors of activities in Airbus. I spoke about private agriculture. They are used, for example, for deriving index-based insurance on grassland, for example. This has been stamped by Ministry of Agriculture in several countries in Europe. and we are exporting it in Latin America, actually. Grassland is not a cash crop, but it's very important for the economy of livestock. And these biophysical parameters, the green cover fraction, is used for the insurance companies to compensate directly the farmers when there is a drought from the satellite information. It has been validated by Ministry of Agriculture. Precision ag, I will not speak about precision ag today, it's not the purpose. These biophysical metrics are used also for deforestation, but I will focus on geostatistics. Agricultural institutions want to know better their territory, manage the land, and encourage good farming practices to improve the production as well. And this is why they use satellite imagery today to monitor these agricultural policies as supporting farming practices. And so for crop production forecast, once again, our skill is on satellite imagery. We provide inputs and solution and capacity building to derive some information from these satellite data. So crop mapping is one first important component of crop production, because it allows you to derive crop acreage estimates. Okay, from each pixel we derive this information. Also, with the crop profiles I was showing, we can monitor the crop development and have alerts. I will showcase some use case on that, alerts from these crop profiles. And from this, crossing with yield information, we can have crop production estimate. So this is an example of a World Bank project we achieved in Africa. That was the objective was to build a crop mapping and acreage and production estimates. The objective of Malawi authorities were to assess the land use status of the estates, and as well they wanted not only to assess the crop production, but also to assess the quality of the rural roads in order to commercialize and to have priority of rehabilitation of these roads to support the commercialization of the production. So, of course, on these projects, what we provide is capacity building, because we want the local partners to operate these kind of systems. So in terms of agricultural statistics, this crop mapping and crop acreage is used currently to my knowledge, on several topics, crossing with yield to assess production estimates. If you cross this acreage estimate with water unit needs, then you have a global water need, and you can assess this global water need at administrative level, but mainly it's done at watershed level, because thanks to the crop mapping vision, okay, and also we use it for fertilizer global need. There are many authorities that are subsidizing fertilizer to increase the production, and the question is really for them to know about the global quantity of fertilizer they want to procure and subsidize, and to attribute it the right way on the marketplace, I mean in the fields, according to the acreage of each crop they want to support. And so we are working on that down to the farmers, to support even the farmer in having the right input at the right moment. Satellite imagery, of course, is used as well to update cadastre, to cross this information with a land database and update it. So I will showcase an example. I want to focus my talk also on these kind of services. We have some API. This API is called SOCAP. it's an API that we have developed to support agricultural authorities in the monitoring of their agriculture. In Europe, in the future Common Agricultural Policy, the objective is to monitor 100% of the fields in Europe, meaning 175 million hectares. That's a little bit the same size as what you have in India, I think, which is amazing. And so it's a big challenge because monitoring all fields in real time is a little bit a challenge. But with this kind of API, we can plug to your portal, to your field database, all this information automatically in real time over millions of fields. And so this is an example. Okay, we can see the image behind. Okay, I'm sorry about that. So I will move to the use case. That was an example of SOCAP but it cannot retrieve the image behind. Anyway, I can make some demonstration if you want afterwards during the breaks. So let's go into some use case of this API. First of all, to support agricultural policies, we've been tasked several times on how to create a land parcel database. And today, from satellite imagery with machine learning and segmentation, we can automatically retrieve limits of fields. This is an example over Europe. The field finder is our tool to do that, a machine learning tool. Machine learning is important, but what you need as well to do that is data. What kind of data? And in Airbus, we are building a base map, which is a 1.5 meter resolution base map over the whole world, and we maintain it up to date. We refresh it constantly, so this base map is worldwide and 1 year old as maximum. Each pixel is less than 1 year old. And so this field finder automatic processing to derive field boundaries automatically works on this base map over the whole world. So that's important. This is another example of field finder application in Eastern Africa over very small fields. And we use, so in this case we were using a spot 6 1.5 meter resolution, but here we were also using a Pleiad imagery because of the very small fields, less than half hectare, more or less 1 acreage in this area. So Pleiad is quite well suited to that. I'm sorry because the imagery is not working. I can't retrieve the imagery on this. Okay. So I wanted to show here, but it doesn't work. The fact that this automatic processing allows you to maintain your database, your cadastre database, automatically, because automatically it gives you the identification of the fields that need to be updated. So that's a tool to support the update of cadastre. Second use case after field boundaries delineation is about validating crop types. With this kind of profiles that SOCAP is providing, like these ones, we can easily discriminate one crop from the other. And thanks to the biophysical parameters, we can make it as soon as possible, a little bit earlier. The studies has shown that we can gain a few days or weeks compared to NDVI to discriminate crops one from the other. So that's of interest to gain some time in the discrimination. What I wanted also to discuss with you this morning is how this kind of API can be used in early warning. For example, here we have a problem in 2019, this is in Eastern Africa, about drought, which has delayed a lot the sowing of corn, and that has impacted as well the crop germination. And so as an early warning, from these API, you can compare to the previous year and analyze the delay into the vegetation starting on crop fields. And so this is how you can alert on what is a potential problem on production. We don't know yet, but as an early warning, it's important information for the authorities to know about the potential impact of drought on the production. So you can derive statistics in terms of a number of fields or acreage impacted with this kind of phenomena. Another example in using this kind of APIs is to do in-season automatic crop development assessment. And so here you can see that we analyze, for example, we have several indicators which can be maximum values of these biophysical metrics, but it can be also this area. This is a comparison of area. It's very simple geospatial analysis with GIS tools that you can do from apply on these API. The metrics of these APIs are really the result of 20 years of R&D at home. But after that, your usage of this kind of metrics is really simple after that to derive early warning and in-season crop development assessment. Another example, sorry about that, is the detection of abnormalities. With a peer group analyze, automatic process on the API, you can analyze fields one compared to the others in the same area. That's just a peer group analyze. And then you can see which fields are abnormal. Here, field number 5, these are fields, rice fields in Indonesia. Field number 5 is behaving below the normality in the region. Field number 10 is behaving above the average of the region. So it's very important to be able to define the outliers. LAI, a leaf area index, can be ingested in agro-models, and this is how the agro-model can improve the accuracy. Of course, the improvement of accuracy depends on the crop and the country, but what I've seen is you can gain some 5 to 10% of accuracy at integrating LAI into the models. And of course, we can go to fertilizer input advice. So this is how these kind of APIs can support the whole value chain, from geostats at country and district levels to farm evidence if you want to check the attribution of subsidies, and down to the farmers, down to the fields with the introduction of smart farming. I don't speak about precision ag, which is another process, but at least supporting the farmers with some advice. So in ABUS, what we try to do is to do capacity building, as I was saying. I will finish on that. We are looking for partners in the countries to operate this technology. Of course, we can provide these digital services in the package, all the sensor sources, of course, and experience to do this capacity building. From first basic package on agricultural statistics, that a pilot project can be done in a one crop season, 6 to 9 months time. After that, we can also bring partner for crop models, unless you have already them, and in a third package, we can add these down to farmers activity. So thank you for this opportunity to discuss this with you. Of course, if you want some live demo, even on your fields, we can do that at the break, or we can organize a WebEx. I can show this through WebEx. I need just Wi-Fi, so we can do that later. Thank you.
Thank you for providing a glimpse of Airbus work on use of satellite data for crop production forecasting, crop development alerts, monitoring crop development, early warnings, etc. We can take one or two for very short questions, if there is, please. If there is any question, okay. Yeah, please.
Hi, Gianrico Di Fonso from Sapienza University. You speak about crop type detection, but what about the accuracy of this detection?
So it depends. That's not a good answer, but really it depends. Generally, for the main crops, we have a detection which is really higher, 90%. For the staple crops, it depends, of course, of the territory. If you have mixed crops, it might be a little bit more complex. But what we have seen is that thanks to the crop profile, when there is mixed crops, at a certain stage, you understand what is on the ground, because you have one crop which is harvested and the other one remaining. So, but it's less accurate, of course. It depends. The accuracy depends also in the year. I mean, if you are looking in season, the accuracy is different. We are really in a follow-up process, and so it depends when you measure. But if you, with the profile, you optimize the discrimination, even when you have quite complex cropping patterns. It depends, really.
And if I can, another question. How do you deal with GPS missing data when you have missing data about GPS? How do you solve it?
So here we are not using GPS at all. I mean, satellite imagery, these kind of APIs are automatically looking and collecting satellite imagery in several servers, all incoming imagery, Landsat, Sentinel, Spot, Planet, etc. And it automatically corrects it geometrically. We have DEMS to correct it. And radiometrically, we have quite a good radiometric correction. This is really our experience in satellite, of course. And so we do not need GPS to have this capacity to clip all these crop profiles to a single field, even to a single field. So the accuracy of the stack of imagery is really good, sufficient for agriculture.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Dilek, for a great presentation. I'll check whether Christian Johnson has come. If he's not there, then we'll go to the last presentation, Erika Shirega from Indonesia. You may please introduce yourself. And
Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity. Good morning, everyone. My name is Erika Siregar. I'm from Indonesia, from BPS Statistics Indonesia. So Currently, I'm going to present about a preliminary research that we are conducting in Indonesia about remote sensing. The title is Using Convolutional Network on Remote Sensing Data as an Alternative for Crop Area Detection, a preliminary study of rice fields in Indonesia. So I'm going to say that actually I'm not from the agricultural department, I'm from the IT department, but me and my colleague are assigned to this project to investigate about how to use remote sensing for statistics. So compared to previous presentation and even yesterday presentation that we already watched, I can say that in other countries, remote sensing already used greatly for the statistic, but in our case here in Indonesia, we are still in the phase of exploring and investigating about how to implement them for our statistics. So okay, so I'm going to tell you about the background problems that trigger us to learn about remote sensing. So as you know, that rice is the most important staple crop in Indonesia and has a strong influence on both the economic and political sectors. So the data about rice production is really crucial in Indonesia, but for the several past few years, we are always struggling with the inaccuracy issue. As you can see that from the headline news that I screenshot there, rice data is always polemic and contentious. The import, rice import always also controversial, and people blame Statistic Indonesia for providing data inconsistency because of overestimation. And even last year in 2018, there's a huge discussion about whether or not to import rice from other countries, because from the logistic board they said that we have enough stock, but the Ministry of Trade insisted on importing the rice because according to their knowledge we don't have sufficient stock. So because of that, BPS Statistik Indonesia are cooperating with other agencies like LAPAN, National Institute of Aeronautic and Space, BPPT, Agency for the Assessment, Application and Technology, and also Geospatial Information Agency. They try to think about how to solve that problem, and they come up with the idea of conducting area sampling frame survey, which consists of two main steps. The first step is construction of area frame, and the second step is observe and record the growing stages of rice at each sample point. So this is a field survey. They will go to the rice field and take a picture of the paddy. In this case, we will concern on the first step, which is the construction of area frame. As you can see, okay, maybe I will use this one. So we will concern on this phase in the red circle. I hope you can see it. It's related to the data input that is used in construction, in constructing the frame. So basically what they do is just manually downloading the images from Google Maps, and then they manually mark the area that looks like rice field using GIS tools such as QGIS. So it has so many weaknesses and implications based on our experiences, like subject to wrong identification, which will cause higher error rate, and also the classification will take longer time, difficult to detect lane changes. Like let's say that in the next 3 months there are a new rice field formed that will not be accommodated into the frame. So that's make us think about why don't we try to embrace remote sensing for improving our agricultural statistics. So we're proposing using deep learning algorithm, in this case deep convolutional network and image segmentation on satellite imagery data for automatically detecting and classifying rice field areas. So actually this is some kind of independent research that we are doing in our office. There are just few people working in this, so we're quite struggling with this, but at least we try, and we're still learning. So these are our objectives. We want to investigate the feasibility of improving ASF, or area sampling frame, formation using deep learning algorithm, develop a method that can automatically detect rice field from satellite imagery, and we'll be using one single class because this is just preliminary research, rice field and non-rice field. So that's how our journey begins, as well as our suffering, to be honest. So at the first time, we do not have enough knowledge on how to do that. So we exploring various methods on how to working with satellite imagery. So we found that there are several methods that we can use, such as object detection, class detection, or image segmentation. And we decided to use image segmentation because we consider that it is the most suitable for our purpose. And then after that, after we know that, okay, we will work on image segmentation, but how to implement that? And then we keep learning, and we found that we can use CNN, convolutional neural network, for our work. And then again, we keep studying, and then we thinking about how to implement the CNN, and we found there are several architecture available related to CNN, such as SegNet, ResNet, and UNet. And we choose UNet because it is claimed to be effective to use in the small sample size. So this is the network architecture of the UNet. I just want to give you a brief description about UNet. It's originally developed for biomedical image segmentation. As you can see that the architecture looks like a U shape, and it contains of two paths. The left side is contraction path or encoder for capturing the context in the image, and the right side is expanding path or decoder for enabling localization using transport convolutions. And it only contains convolutional layers, and so it can accept image of any size. Okay, next. Okay, then after we deciding about the architecture, we learn about the framework that we can use to explore UNet more. We try to learn about TensorFlow, plus Keras, Caffe, and also PyTorch. But among those three, we found that TensorFlow and Keras is the easiest to use because it's the most common library framework that are used for deep learning, and we can find the resources about it easily. So we choose to use the TensorFlow and Keras. And after that, we explore the data input that we will be using for our training, so images that will be used. And we explored Mapbox Satellite, Google Satellite, OSM, and Landsat, and we decided to use Mapbox Satellite because it is already color corrected and it's cloudless, and it's also free. And after that, we are move on to the more real thing. We select the data for select the training area. We choose the areas that have high number of rice fields in Indonesia. So we choose several regions in Java Island, which are Karawang, Purwakarta, Subang, and surrounding areas. These areas are famous for the number one rice production in Indonesia. And then we get the rectangle coordinates because this is just independent research we are doing in our office. So we use all the free tools here. We use tile calculator, which is available in that website, tools.geofabric.de. And then we start downloading the satellite images. We use the SkyNet data. Again, this is a free tools that you can use, that you can find on the internet with the zoom level 17. And then we obtain the same sized 1890 tiles, each of size of 256 multiplied by 256 pixels. So that those are the examples of the downloaded satellite image that we got from Mapbox satellites. And then we create the polygon mask. So basically, it's just like labeling the area, and we're using another free tools called Label Box. And the good thing about Label Box is you can collaborate with more than with your colleagues. It's like working with Google Docs or Google Sheets when you want to collaborate working on something. And we obtain 425 tiles that contains rice field. Okay, move on to the next because we know that in machine learning, the more training data you have, the better model that you will also get. So we want to expand the size of our data set by augmenting it. So we augment it by doing the flipping, shifting left, shifting to the right, shifting to the up, and shift down. And at the end, we obtain 2,550 images in total, including the original data set. Okay, so here's our experimental setup. As I already mentioned before, since this is an independent project, we do not have any funding with us, so we are conducting so we did the experiments by using consumer PCs. So we used the Core i7 PC with memory 32 megabyte without GPU, and OS Windows 7, Python, TensorFlow, Keras, and Jupyter Notebook. Okay, so after that, we start doing the data training with UNet. We split the data set by the proportion of 9 to 1, 90% for the training and 10% for the validation. And we use the batch size of 32. Batch size is the number of images that you can process in one time, and number of epoch of 50. Epoch is just like iteration in the learning process, and we use the metrics of fail and loss. And in this training, we use a strategy to reduce the learning rate on decay, and early stopping after no improvement within 10 epochs, and save the base model for each epoch. So this is the training result. As you can see here on the graph, out of maximum 50 epoch, training process stopped at epoch 34, because we can see that no improvement after 10 epochs. The best model obtained at epoch 26 with the accuracy of 0.95 and loss of 0.15. And here's the testing result that we get. So as you can see, there are 3 different kind of images. This is the images that we are feeding into the model, and and the second images here, it's the output. It's a grayscale images where each pixel is labeled with probability value between 0 and 1, which means where 0 means it's perfectly black and white means it's perfectly white. And you can see that there is some gray area here. And then we convert this output into either 0 or 1 with a threshold of 0.85. So any value below 0.85 will be converted to 0, and value equal to or more than 0.85 will be converted to 1. And then, so this is the measuring performance for the non-rice field area, or the class with the 0 label. We got a precision 0.92 and recall 0.99. And for the rice field area, we got precision of 0.99 and recall 0.88 with the accuracy of 0.95. So these are the conclusion. So the conclusion is we managed to do an early exploration and investigation on how to utilize remote sensing for improving agricultural statistics in Indonesia, especially for the rice field prediction. Our experiment demonstrates that image segmentation to predict rice fields could be a breakthrough, and also playing a supporting role for helping the improvement of area sampling frame survey, especially in the formation of the segment of the sampling unit. We are still in the beginning of the phase, so we definitely need more time, research, training, experiments, and also help from other parties. And this morning, before the presentation, I talked with Dilak from France, and interestingly, she also works with rice field in Indonesia. So I believe that she could be a great help for us here in Statistics Indonesia. So I think we should discuss more later. So we want to also implement this in other relevant census or surveys. And for future works, looks like we have a lot of homeworks We want to do area estimation by converting the number of pixels for rice fields into land area in hectares. And we want to be able to accommodate multi-class image segmentation where we can determine the phase of growing paddy, planting, vegetative, harvesting, etc. And we also want to conduct a time series analysis by predicting the area of land from a Landsat image. And of course, we want to experimenting on other types of crops such as corn, soybeans, or palm trees. Okay, I think that's the end of my presentation. By the way, the codes that we are using in the learning and training process are available on our GitHub there. So feel free to check that out and maybe give us feedback or any help. It will be appreciated. So thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you, Dr. Erika, for giving a brief about your research work on using deep convolution network for rice crop classification. Any question for Ms. Erika? Yeah.
Excuse me. But data are related to 1 year, only 1 year, or
Yes, do you mean whether whether it's a series data or not? So for this preliminary research, we only focusing on 1 year only, 1 point only.
okay?
Yeah,
Thanks.
because we just want to explore about how whether it's possible to use deep learning for our work.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Hello, my name is Eka Petri. I work for Eurostat. I have a question on the selection of the satellite images. Have you considered using Copernicus images? And if you haven't found them useful, could you say why?
Well, to be honest, we haven't tried the Copernicus yet because we haven't heard about that yet. So probably we will try to look at after this.
They are also free of charge.
Okay. Thank you very much for your information.
Yeah, and if there is, I would just know in BPA statistics how much you use remote sensing data for area estimation operationally.
So at this moment, we haven't done anything related to remote sensing yet for statistics. That's why we are assigned to work on that to investigate.
But you
on that.
showed that your sampling plan design is based on remote sensing data?
Sorry?
Your sampling plan design
Mm-hmm.
is based on satellite data?
For now, it's not yet. That's why we are trying to proposing this idea.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
So, I once again request if Kirsten Johnson is here. Okay, with that we come to close to this session. If there is any general question to be asked to any of the speakers, yeah, please. Since we have some time left. I request the speakers can come here. You can come here. Erika, you can come here. Okay, anyone is there to bring a chair? Please, chair. Yeah, you please come, sit.
Hi, this question is for Erica. Thank you for your presentation. I found it very interesting. I had a question about your sort of like your crowdsourcing for doing all the digitizing of the rice fields. I was just curious of what was the workload like, and like how many people did you involve, and what was your, like in the end, how many training samples did you end up with?
So to be honest, there are just few people involved. just like 2 people assigned to this project. So it's me and my other colleague who didn't come to this conference. And you are asking about our experience, right, when trying to investigating. So it's quite frustrating. I think it's exhausting because we have not many knowledge about it. But we got help from the people from the crop department of Statistics Indonesia, because in Statistics Indonesia there are several departments, IT department, crop department, and so many others. And I got help from them to understand more about the concept of agriculture. So I don't know, we just managed to to do everything. So yeah. Is that answering your question?
Yeah, also, yes, and what was the workload like between the 2 of you for digitizing so many paddy, and what did you end up with?
So with the workload, so it's so since this is like a side project of us, we also still have our main job in our daily life. In our job, we also have our main duty every day. So we kind of allocating like 2 hours every day before before we leave the office to work on that. And we don't really have like a strict rule of regulation about how to divide the workload. We just doing it since there are only 2 people, so we don't really
improving statistics. With this, I thank all the audience for participating, asking questions, and strongly participating in this. With this, we come to the end of this session. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Nice to
We can
meet
have a
you.
photograph together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Please come. Thank you.
Thank you again. Nice to meet you.